What if I told you the most intense fight between good and evil isn't happening in a far-off place or during some epic battle? What if it's happening in our everyday lives, in those small, quiet moments we often overlook? You see, the real fight between good and evil might be far more personal than we think. It's in the decisions we make when no one is watching, in the struggles between our conscience and temptation. Today on City on a Mountain, we're talking about this unseen battle. Stick with us, because this fight might be closer than you imagine. If you enjoy content like this, don't forget to subscribe to City on a Mountain for more discussions about life's hidden battles. The obvious versus the subtle battles. When people talk about good versus evil, we often think about the obvious: heroes fighting villains, or big historical conflicts. But what about the subtle battles that happen every day? The ones that don't involve flashy fights or big speeches? Let's look at some examples. Imagine you're tempted to say something hurtful in the heat of an argument, or to cut corners at work because you know no one will notice. These moments may seem insignificant, but they're the real battlegrounds where good and evil clash. You see, good and evil aren't always these huge world-shaking forces. Sometimes they're as simple as choosing whether or not to act with kindness when no one else is watching. We may not realize it, but every time we face these little moral dilemmas, we're stepping into a fight that has been going on for centuries. It's a battle most people don't talk about because it doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic music. But it's there, shaping who we are. The daily choices we make, like whether to lie or be honest, to help or to ignore someone in need, determine which side wins in our personal lives. It's these smaller, unnoticed decisions that eventually tip the scales between good and evil. The internal conflict, the real fight. Here's the thing. The real battleground isn't out there in the world. It's inside of us. We like to think that good and evil are forces outside of ourselves, something we have to face externally. But the truth is, the most important fight happens internally, within our own minds. Think about the last time you were tempted to do something you knew wasn't right. Maybe it was lying to avoid a consequence, or maybe it was ignoring someone who needed help because it was inconvenient. In those moments, you were in the middle of a battle between good and evil, and it was playing out in your thoughts. This internal struggle is constant, and it's exhausting. It's the quiet voice in your head, urging you to make the right choice, fighting against the easier, often selfish option. And it happens all the time in situations that are so subtle we might not even notice. But these internal battles matter. Each time we choose to do good over taking the easy way out, we strengthen our moral compass. On the flip side, every time we choose to ignore that inner voice urging us to do the right thing, we make it a little easier to make the wrong choice next time. This is why it's so important to be aware of the constant internal fight. It's easy to think that these little moments don't matter, but they add up. They shape our character, our habits, and eventually they influence the world around us. Why the internal fight goes unnoticed? You might be asking yourself, if this battle is so important, why don't we talk about it more? The truth is, it's easy to overlook. Internal conflicts don't come with the same drama or clarity that external fights do. There's no villain to point at, no big showdown. One reason we don't talk about it is because it's not glamorous. When you watch a movie, you see the hero defeating the villain in a big, final battle. But the internal struggles we face, they're quiet, often unnoticed by anyone but ourselves. There's no applause for making the right choice when no one's around. And honestly, most people don't want to think about their inner conflicts. It's uncomfortable to face the fact that we're constantly tempted to make selfish choices. Another reason is that we've been conditioned to think of good and evil as external forces. From a young age, we're taught that bad things come from outside of us, from bad people or evil situations. But in reality, the real fight is within. And that's something many of us aren't prepared to acknowledge. The more we ignore this internal fight, the more we give in to the small compromises that lead us further down the path of self-interest and eventually away from the good we aspire to. Recognizing this battle is the first step in winning it. The ripple effect of small decisions. Here's a thought. Every choice you make, no matter how small, creates a ripple effect. It's easy to think that a small, selfish decision won't have any long-term consequences, but that's not true. Each choice we make influences not only our own lives, but the lives of those around us. Let's take a simple example, deciding whether to be kind to someone even when it's not easy. That single act of kindness could inspire them to do the same for someone else. On the flip side, choosing to act out of frustration or impatience could set off a chain of negativity that affects more people than you realize. The small, everyday decisions we make matter. They have far-reaching consequences. Whether we choose to do good or let selfishness win, those choices shape the world around us in ways we often can't see. And when we start paying attention to these choices, we can begin to shift the balance of the world toward good. How to win the internal battle. So, how do we win this fight between good and evil that's happening within us? It starts with awareness. We need to recognize that these small, seemingly insignificant decisions matter. Once we become aware of the internal battle, we can start making more conscious choices. Another key is intention. Every day, set the intention to act in line with your values, whether that means being honest, kind, or compassionate. Having a clear intention can help guide your choices when the moment comes. We won't always get it right. Sometimes we'll give in to temptation or take the easy way out. But the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to keep trying, to keep making those small positive choices. Over time, these choices build up and help us become the people we want to be. The fight between good and evil isn't always loud and obvious. It's happening quietly inside each of us every single day. The more we become aware of these internal battles, the better we can equip ourselves to make the right choices. If this conversation got you thinking, don't let it stop here. Join us on City on a Mountain by hitting that subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay tuned for more thought-provoking content about life's hidden struggles. Let's explore these unseen battles together and start winning the fight, one choice at a time.